Supplementation, okay. So I do think it's important to mention, okay, so the majority of the time everything is going to go really smoothly with the feeding, exactly as I've described so far. But from time to time, we might have a baby on the ward that I suppose for medical reasons might require a little bit of supplementation. So what would be a medical reason requiring supplementation? I suppose one example would be a baby belonging to a mummy who had gestational diabetes. You know, in the first 24 hours, we need to check their blood sugar levels 3 times. If we were in any way concerned that the sugars were a little bit low, we might have to talk about supplementation. Another example might be, you know, the unlikely event of the weight dropping below 10%. Again, the chat about supplementation might need to be brought up if that was the case. And this is, as I said, why we like to avoid that second scenario of the weight tipping below the 10% by waking baby and feeding him if he hasn't fallen asleep himself after hasn't woken himself after 4 hours. We do that nearly to prevent this. You know, another example might be a jaundice baby. When we talk about supplementation, our plan A in the hospital is always mum's expressed breast milk, and then we opt for our plan B, which would be formula only in a situation where we didn't have access to mum's expressed breast milk. Okay, so ideally we're asking you to express. In terms of expressing, when you log into the lactation consultant's workshop, you will see a expressing demo there, but also it's good to know that on the ward, in terms of hand expressing or using a breast pump, we would provide you with everything you need, including like how to do this, and usually your midwife will sit with you the first time that you're expressing, be it hand or with a pump, to describe and show and explain to you exactly what is to be done. Hand expressing, we usually recommend for the first probably day 1, day 2, maybe day 3, while there's colostrum present. And then we would introduce a pump only when the milk has come in, okay? Just, you know, so that you can kind of differentiate between the two. In the situation where we might need to look at introducing formula, okay, the brands that we have here in the hospital are SMA, Cowengate and Aptamil. And in my experience from working over on the wards, I think sometimes, like when all this is going on, sometimes like it is a time where parents sometimes do feel like they know it's for the good of their baby. You know, a medical reason to supplement is, you know, that is a very sound reason to give some supplementation. But sometimes when we talk about, you know, introducing formula when it wasn't the original plan, parents can be a little bit confused, like what brand do I go for? Are there differences between the brands? Like we are taught that there isn't really, but I do think as a parent, it's probably no harm to familiarise yourself with the different brands, look at the nutritional content, look at the ingredients, and there might be one that jumps out above the others for you. And again, that might just give you a little bit of control in a time of not control, you know, or not much control. So to do your homework on the brands, I always think better having this information and not needing it than kind of panicking because you don't have it at the time. So that's that. Storage of breast milk. Okay, so if you need to store breast milk for any reason, and again, the hospital will really guide you on this if you did need to express, to supplement, you know, on the wards. But generally we say in the fridge for up to 5 days, in a small freezer attached to your fridge for up to 3 months, and in a chest freezer for up to 6 months. Okay, and that's all in that little Bible booklet that I was telling you about as well. I suppose finally, winding baby, vitamin D and sterilizing. Okay, so to wind a baby, let's have a little look. Okay, so whoops. Now, so when we're winding a baby, like when do we wind them? We wind all babies after a feed. we need to give them just the little opportunity to get their wind up if that's what they need to do. What position do we put them in? So we just sit them on our lap, okay? The most important thing is just to make sure that their windpipe is open, okay? So even if you try it yourself, if you sit up straight and raise your jaw and swallow, you'll find that that's really easy, okay? But if you kink your head down like this and swallow, you'll find that your windpipe narrows a little bit, okay? So remember that with your baby. If he's sitting there with his head kinked down, his windpipe is narrowed, it's going to be much more difficult for him to get his wind up. So the most important thing is that you're holding him like this, okay? So we'll support his little jaw, and he's got a nice straight back, and we're going to give him the opportunity, however long, it might be 5 minutes, might be 10 minutes to get his wind up. If after 10 minutes he seems like calm, chilled, not a bit bothered, as if he isn't uncomfortable with any wind, and he's just like looking around and chilling out, and he hasn't done a burp, that's okay. Maybe he's just not windy, so just pop him down to bed, okay? If he is still wriggling around, drawing his knees up to his chest, arching his back, that might be him, that is him telling you he's still a little bit windy. So you want to just keep going with that baby until either he does a burp or he does a fart, or whatever way he decides to get his wind up and to become a little bit more comfy. And only then will we pop him down. Usually the easiest way to wind him is like I'm sitting here with him on your lap. If he's too wriggly, if he's too uncomfy and he's doing a lot of squirming, you might find it is a little bit easier just to lift him up over your shoulder, have a look in a mirror just to make sure that his head isn't kinked down, and the same again, okay? So you're just going to, maybe a little muslin cloth over your shoulder just in case he spits up a little bit. And we're just going to watch and wait and see if he gets his wind up. And when he does, you're going to pop him down. So that's winding him. Vitamin D. Okay, so we give vitamin D to all breastfed babies every day for the first year of life. Where do you get vitamin D? So you can buy it in any pharmacy. You don't need a prescription. There are a few different brands. Usually the different brands have different administration methods. So you'll find some are a drop, a dropper, some are a syringe, others are a spray. So you pick the brand that you find would be the easiest for you to give. And as I said, we give it every day for up to a year. Why do we give vitamin D? Well, we know with vitamin D, we need vitamin D for our body to absorb calcium. Without vitamin D, our body can't absorb calcium, and we need calcium for healthy bones. So I suppose it's for that reason. There is also evidence to show that vitamin D helps build a strong immune system. So I suppose it's an added benefit of vitamin D. Sterilizing. Okay, so what do we need to know about sterilizing? With sterilizing, we need to sterilize anything that we're using for feeding baby for the first year. So that's breast pumps, bottles for giving breast milk, anything that we're using to feed baby for the first year needs to be sterilized. How do we sterilize? Okay, so we have a couple of options. We can use a steam sterilizer, so a steam microwave or a steam plug-in sterilizer. We can use a pot of boiling water, so usually it's 3 minutes in the pot of boiling water while it is bubbling, okay? And then the other option would be, I suppose, chemical style, like Milton style sterilizing. The steam and the microwave steam and the pot of boiling water, they'll all be perfect if you have electricity. I'm a real plan B person, so I probably think it's no harm to have maybe just a little packet of sterilizing tablets or a little packet of, I suppose, liquid sterilizer in a press up high somewhere, just in case, our electricity went or something happened. At least you have a plan B if baby's less than a year old and you're still needing to sterilize. Regardless of what you're using to sterilize, before you put anything in your sterilizing method, be it steam, pot of boiling water, sterilizing tablets, for example, and water, you need to make sure that what you're sterilizing is spotlessly clean, okay? So we need to separate everything. We need to clean everything that we're sterilizing in warm water and washing up liquid, okay? So we pop everything in our water and washing up liquid. We need a bottle brush, okay, to make sure that everything, every crevice that we are cleaning is absolutely spotless, okay? And then once we know everything is really, really clean, every nook and cranny is cleaned really well, we then need to rinse off any excess bubbles and only then put it in your sterilizer. So don't put anything in the sterilizer with like washing up liquid or bubbles on it, because it's not good for the sterilizer and it's not good for your baby's products that are being sterilized. So once everything is washed really well and everything is spotlessly clean, you need to rinse all the bubbles from the washing up liquid off your bottle, from your filter, from everything that you need to sterilize, and only pop it into the sterilizer when it is like all rinsed, okay? So everything should head in facing down so that the steam can make its way up and clean everything properly. So like this, like this, like this, okay? You'll need to put the appropriate amount of water into the steam sterilizer as well, and I'd always pop your tongs in too, okay? Pop on your little lid. And this one's a microwave one, steam sterilizer for plug-in, exactly the same, okay? And that's sterilizing, so sterilize for up to 1 year. So I suppose we've gone through winding, we've gone through vitamin D, we've gone through sterilizing, and we've gone through feeding. If anyone has any questions, you can email the link below. And thank you so much for watching. Take care and best of luck with your pregnancies. Bye-bye.